Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Loam Wolf MTB podcast presented by Feedback Sports and Joe's No Flats. Today, we're going to be talking to Brad Waldron, the Chief Technology Officer and co-founder of Cali Protectives, to learn a little bit about him, about Cali Protectives, the company, and about their super exciting new progressive enduro pedal-friendly full-face helmet, the Cali Crew. Brad, could you first give us a little introduction to who you are beyond your job title and what you do for Cali?
Sure. I guess because we're going to talk about some innovation going on, I'll go back to I started my engineering career as a aerospace R&D engineer for on military aircraft, and the mentality there was always keep trying, don't be satisfied with what you have. And I definitely try to have that mentality with what we do at Cali. Try something new, be disruptive. Often what we do, people can't see. In fact, the helmet we're going to talk about is, to me, not as radical and new as some of the other things we've done that just don't get the attention because they're hidden inside. But every once in a while you come with something a little more disruptive. So here we are.
And talking more about your background leading into, I guess, the last few years, what is your primary role at Cali at the moment?
Currently, we're not a big company, so it's all hands on deck. And absolutely love all of my coworkers because they've been just doing a great job and, grinding through, COVID and tariffs and riots, fires, mudslides, whatever comes our way. But development is my primary concern. Spent a lot of time looking at products and how to improve them, trying to come up with new materials, new processes, things that, make our helmets better. I know the helmet world hates to say safer because they're afraid they're going to get sued, but that is our ultimate goal is, making helmets softer. I think all helmets are too hard. How do we put softer shit next to our heads? That kind of thing. So that's my primary role. I'm still in every sales meeting. I'm still in, all the nitty gritty parts, cheerleader, whatever needs to happen. Fortunately we've got a great team. So, I don't mind sitting in those meetings I don't always like it, but you do what you got to do.
Got to do what you got to do. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'd actually be really interested. Cali, how did it start? And you're saying you're quite a small crew, small team. What kind of size have you made it to by now?
Well, we're down to 10, 12 people. I mean, we were up bigger than that before COVID and all that kind of stuff. And we've just kind of gotten smarter and tighter. We use outside sales reps and things like that. And we use distributors around the world for help, that help us through all of it. But, it's 10, 12 people.
Cool. Making it happen. And as one of the co-founders, how did the origin story of Cali come about?
Yeah, it's so after I left aerospace, I actually went to work for Specialized. I was a carbon fiber engineer in aerospace. That was my specialty, trying to turn the F-18 from an aluminum aircraft to all carbon fiber. That's a whole fun subject for another day. But as a cyclist, the Specialized gig came up and I jumped on it and took my 25% pay cut like everybody that goes to the bike industry does. And I started in helmets there, eventually was the head of engineering. We worked on bikes like the Tarmac and Roubaix because we were just inching into carbon fiber bikes at that time. So that's how long ago it was. In fact, I still ride the first prototype Tarmac, which ironically is a carbon top tube, carbon seats stays. The down tube is titanium, and the so all the bottom is titanium and the seat tube is titanium. So I had some, even though I was a carbon fiber engineer, had some titanium experience in aerospace. And then, that was the first bike, and nobody knows what it is because the bike actually ended up coming out full carbon. So I ride it around here. A few years ago, I get hit by a car on it. I'm okay. But it messed up the bike. So I turned it into a townie, and it's like, it's this cool, prototype that doesn't say Specialized on it anywhere, and blah, blah. All right. So how did Cali start? So, I helped a helmet factory in Asia start a carbon division. So I'd go over there and I'd help them figure out how to make carbon parts, mostly motorcycle helmet shells. And we were working on a project, and having had a lot of test experience from my time at Specialized, I didn't like the results that we were getting from this one particular helmet that we were working on. And essentially what was happening is in the lab, you were seeing a double spike in G forces. So that means to me that your head's just rattling around inside. And as you looked at it further, I could see that there was a gap between the foam and the shell, because the way you make a motorcycle helmet, still 99% of people do it this way. Take the foam, take the shell, you shove it together. We've all probably had full face helmets where the foam comes loose. So I asked this silly question: why aren't you in-molding these? Bicycle helmets have been in-molded since Giro started doing it sometime in the 90s. And that now everybody does that. And they're looking at me like, that's impossible. It was a processing problem. So again, coming from that R&D side, I said, well, let's try. Let's see what happens. And it took us a year and a half, 2 years. And so we basically inject the foam in to the shell, and we've eliminated the gaps 100%. So okay, good for us. It smoothed out the curve. But what we found was we could make the shells thinner, a lot lighter, and the foam softer. Once again, put softer shit next to your head. And, the result was a much lighter helmet, but most important, it was dissipating the energy more efficiently. So, tried to sell the patent, and a partner came along and said, I'll back you. We need to start our own brand. And I'm like, I don't know the first thing about sales or marketing. And I didn't even know enough to say I don't know anything about logistics, about moving your products around the world. But here we go. We go to our first trade show in Indianapolis, where the big US motorcycle trade shows were, with this new helmet that's lighter than anybody's. I'm going to say the safer word. I'm convinced it was safer. And you could hear the yawn through the whole industry. Nobody gave a shit. Nobody cared. So literally standing in the aisles trying to get people to hold up this helmet. And when they held it, they go, oh, what's going on here? And so from there, we built up, we started in motorcycle first. But, being more of a bike guy, we kind of started moving over to, the bike side as well.
Okay. And in those early days, did you find that you had issues with people picking up the helmet and perceiving its lighter weight as being less safe?
Absolutely. Sure. I remember, one magazine guy, motorcycle side, and he's like, this thing can't be safe. And first thing he tells me is he tries to feel the chin bar. And I'm big on making strong chin bars. I don't compromise on these. On our Shiva, I added about 75 to 100 grams to the chin area just to get it the strength I wanted. I don't start with weight targets, by the way. But it's just, no, you don't do that. Anyway, he takes the helmet, puts it against his chest, tries to grab the chin bar, and he later admits that the helmet slipped, hit him, and cut his chin open. And I'm like, he goes, yeah, I guess your chin bar is pretty strong, but overall, yes, there is that perception. But I'm going to, we've developed some technologies now that some other people use and some people don't, like, geometric shapes inside the foam and things. But of all, I still contest that in molding helmets, motorcycle full shell helmets is a big deal. And it allows you to lower the weight without lowering the strength and dissipate the energy better. Why don't more people do it? Besides that we have a patent on it. People do ignore that. We have had brands ignore it and try, but they didn't know how to engineer it. So it just didn't come out as the same that ours does. Like an unknown named company that everybody knows tried it, and their helmet came out at 1700 grams. I'm like, well, yeah, that's because if you would have come talk to me, I would have helped you. I'll talk to anybody about safety. Anyway, difference, but it's more expensive. It takes time. The manufacturers don't love it. So you have to make a decision whether, you're willing to do that. My motorcycle helmets, my street helmet is $1,200. It's not cheap. I've got $1,000, motocross helmet, that, we don't sell a lot of them, but the people that do believe in them, as do I. So.
Yeah. I mean, if there's one place you want to invest in, then protecting your head seems like a pretty good area for that. These days, what's your sort of split of mountain bike and power sports, I guess, protection?
Mountain bike, it's totally taken over, 80-20. Yeah. So we do some other things too. We do search and rescue helmets. We do head protection. We've spent a lot of time, how to dissipate energy, how to make things work better for, our riders, our customers.
Cool. And talking about your mountain bike lineup these days, what are your kind of key products? What are some Kali helmets that people might have seen out there already?
The Invader's probably been, one of our hottest helmets lately, which will be fun to get into how the evolution got to the crew. But so that our Invader line is kind of along with the new trends, the open type of chin bar. And it is an injection molded chin bar. Mine go 360 degrees all the way around. I do not do detachables. I do not like detachables. I don't do them in motorcycle world. They add weight. Weight is bad. Weight, not just because it's lighter. Weight is bad in a crash. It's simple high school physics. Mass, force equals mass times acceleration. You're just gonna add. So plus, I don't like all that stuff by your face. Things that can cause problems. So you'll find in our Invader line, it's 360 degrees all the way around. So we have our Invader, it's called 2.0, which ventilates better than we also have an Invader GH that has, it's a little beefier, because as soon as you put it on a chin bar, everybody says, is it DH rated? And our original one wasn't, not because of the chin bar, but because of some other impacts that didn't get it there. I had never intended it originally to be a DH helmet. I wanted it to be something you were willing to wear longer, something you could climb in. So the first one ventilates a little bit better. The DH one is a little bit more closed in because of how the impacts are higher. And then we have our Trinity, which is full on traditional. That's something you're going to see some of the slope style guys wearing, closer to our motorcycle style helmet. And then of course we have the Shiva helmet, which is a motorcycle helmet that Nikolai Rogotkin has been wearing for over 10 years. And famously,
right. Okay, so he wears the Moto one.
He wears the Moto one. I struggle with it sometimes because, like I said, mass matters, but the problem is always, terrible helmet engineers joke. What helmet should I wear? Well, call me when you're crashing, and I can tell you what the best helmet you can have is. It's a little bit of a dilemma, because again, mass matters. I like putting lighter things on people's heads just for that impact happening. But Nikolai feels most comfortable in that. And frankly, I'm not here to argue with Nikolai. He's been a solid supporter for us. And if he doesn't want to wear a damn visor, he doesn't have to wear a damn visor.
Yeah. I mean, the man makes it work, and
yeah.
he definitely pulls it off.
Yeah. And he's just awesome guy, just personally.
Okay. So when you were saying you made a full face helmet that wasn't downhill rated,
Mm.
Again, was that a communication problem where people just assumed as soon as they see the full face, it's a downhill worthy helmet?
Yeah. Yeah. It is that way. I mean, I, I just look at our bikes now and what we're riding, and look, I'm not young anymore, but I'm riding stuff now that I didn't think I'd be riding anymore because the bikes are getting better. It's not that I'm hanging in there. Well, I'm trying, but it's more that, what our bikes can do and allow us to do. And look at our trails. Um, man, I got to ride after Hard Rock. I don't even know where I was, somewhere in the UK, and it was gorgeous. And the trails were steep, and the drops were bigger, and the jumps were awesome. And so, as the bikes get better, especially in our enduro world, because the enduro world is getting closer to what A-Line, was 10 years ago at Whistler. And now you got trails like that everywhere. So our bikes are getting better. And I'm a believer that our equipment needs to get better too. And, um, that, and that's my favorite kind of riding anyway, is that enduro style. Try to still hit the jumps, try to still, do the drops, um, and, and ride for, 2 to 4 hours, and that includes
And
climbing.
yeah, yeah, totally. Yeah, I do. I think it's funny sometimes you start riding on a track that a few years ago you'd have only ridden on a downhill bike, and you're on this, mid-travel, lightweight, like do everything all mountain bike that you've just pedaled up the top of the hill.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, now I'm in a trail laid riding this like gnarly trail, and the bike isn't backing down, but yeah, is my protection up to it? It's definitely a constant dilemma, and nobody wants to pedal in a proper downhill full face helmet. It's that doesn't work either. So I guess that leads into the new product that you've got, and something that I do think is super interesting. Can you give the, I guess, a high level sales pitch for it? What is the Kali Crew?
Well, ironically, I had designed this helmet prior to those invaders that came out. And just by the reaction that people are having, you can know why. When I started showing it to, internally, people like going, "Oh, that's too far out there." It actually just came from Max. You met my son Max, and my other kids play hockey. And I'm at the hockey rink, and I'm watching these kids running around with these, sometimes titanium, sometimes stainless steel, whatever, face masks, and they're non-intrusive, and they're breathing hard, and they're running around. And I'm like, why are we doing something like that in bike? Then I started looking at lacrosse, how lacrosse players, cricket. We got quite a few cricket comments at the launch at Hard Rock. Even women's softball. And so to me, this isn't this radically new, crazy thing. It's just radically crazy for bike. Right. So, you kind of got to digest that for that. I watched crashes. I watched, impacts in hockey, and I watched them in lacrosse, and I'm like, why not? Why can't we do this? So we did shelf this for a little while, and I don't think this is as radically revolutionary as other people are looking at it. In fact, we also just launched a brand new motorcycle helmet that I do think is rocket science, that has multi-impact materials that you don't have to throw your helmet away every time you impact it. We've hit one of these helmets 80 times in the test, one helmet 80 times. And you're like, that's the shit you should care about. But nobody cares because it's inside and it's hidden. Instead, you see something crazy like this and go, okay, whoa, wait a minute. What's going on here? Right. So, the origin of it is just that. I was watching other sports. I was watching my kids play hockey, and I'm like, in fact, the original face mask was all over the whole thing, much more like a full hockey mask. And, sometimes I go, oh, we should have stayed with that. But, you argue, you fight, you come up with what you come up with. I've been riding this thing for about 9 months. I designed it and I forget that chin bar's in front of me. You just don't see it. You don't see it. It doesn't breathe with you. I mean, it doesn't block any of the breathing. This is an enduro helmet. The pitch is, this is meant to be an enduro helmet. We did certify to the downhill standard just to give you confidence that we didn't half-ass this thing, that we actually made sure that, it passed the higher standards. Chin bar, we've got a lot of tests in that. The chin bar goes all the way through 360 degrees back into that whole thing. I like that strength. It's really hard when you do a welded titanium. By the way, these are titanium hollow tubes that are bent and then welded. They have to be done perfectly because I'm in molding. It's not like just attach. Okay, you have a little bit of tolerance. This has almost no tolerances. Our reject rate in the beginning was just nuts. And, we finally got it dialed in. I like that contiguous strength all the way through. The chin bar test for the downhill standard is not that hard. You cramp this thing down super tight and you drop a 5 kilogram weight and make sure that it doesn't smash into your head. We got some videos that we'll be uploading that shows you doing that to a bike helmet and to a ABS polycarbonate style plastic. And it does it great once, sometimes twice. And then the third time it just blows apart. We took this thing, did the one test, no problem. Then we kept repeating that test over and over and over again. Wait, what about the sides? Not required. Don't have to do this. Testing standards do the best they can, but they don't cover everything. So we turned this thing here and we did multiple times here, multiple times here. So we wanted to be confident because I knew these questions were going to come up. I want to be confident. I want to wear this. I want, we dig our customers. We're, like I said, we're small. We got loyal following and we care what happens to them too.
Cool. So I guess in your product blurb, you say downhill protection, trail comfort. Where on that scale, that trail through to downhill, would you recommend that people maybe start thinking, okay, instead of going for the crew that you've just shown us there, we go for the Invader or the Invader DH?
To me, this is true enduro trail. This is where I would expect to see this helmet. I would not expect to see it in the lineup at Sea Otter for the downhill race. Even though it has the certification, that's not what we designed it for. We designed it to be an enduro trail. Your bikes are getting better, like we talked about. We're doing more things, and to have to wear a full moto style helmet, just doesn't work on that kind of riding. If you're going to do 2 or 3 minutes coming down, 5 minutes, whatever, down a DH course, and it doesn't matter. You can wear that hot, big helmet and that's fine. That's not what this is for. This is for that, 3-hour ride where you're grinding next to your buddy and getting down to the bottom and having a beer, lying about why he beat you down the hill.
For that structure, you mentioned that it had to be like super precise for the in-molding process. Was there any other challenges that the titanium structure gave you that you didn't expect, maybe?
We tried different levels. I've looked into 3D printing, and I don't have as much confidence in the 3D printing yet. Man, I at Hard Rock, I got to see those Atherton bikes with those 3D printed titanium, and I'm like, oh man, when can I get me one of those? But this process doesn't lend itself to that yet. Like the lugs on the Atherton bikes are super tight, and you can make a lot of them all at once. This is there's only so many of these you can fit onto the table that they print and stuff. So, and this is just an area that I'm more confident in. But yeah, the biggest thing was getting them right, getting the shape right, getting the bending right. It's not that crazy different than when we did titanium bike frames. Well, any bike frame for that fact. When you're bending and welding, you gotta figure that out, right? Because it all wants to bounce back, right? You get it, and, how much do you go, that kind of thing. So
Yeah, I guess it's not much different to a roll cage in a race car or something, right? And they're all welded tubular, so it makes good sense there.
yeah, I mean, the cool thing about the 3D printing is the accuracy. It just prints it right where you're at. So, if I'm still looking at it, and if the process, if I can get the strength that I need and everything, I will definitely consider it. But yeah, we're not there yet on that. So we'll stay with what we know, which is bend it and weld it.
My previous job, actually, I was working in additive manufacturing a little bit on titanium structures. So I don't know if you want to chat about that another time, then
Yeah,
do let me know.
I'm a big fan of titanium and carbon. They're just cool materials.
Absolutely. So we're seeing quite a lot of comments when people are talking about full faces or just helmets in general about asking if they're being tested by Virginia Tech. Was that considered in your process? Would that have maybe influenced the overall design of the helmet differently? I don't know where the two separate, like the testing standards separate.
It is very difficult to get high ratings and pass the ASTM F1952 downhill standard because it's at a higher drop height. You have to increase the density of the material. So we really had a choice. Could we skip the F 1952 and say, okay, it's not downhill rated, and go for a higher rating at Virginia Tech? And we chose that it was more important to have the higher protection than to chase stars. And that's not to say, that Virginia Tech rating isn't important. It has its place. There's not a great measure of outside test labs. I'm a bigger fan of University of Strasbourg's testing system and rating system. They just don't promote it that much. I think I think they are a more accurate lab. That's not to say testing it's imperfect. It's not real world. So you got to start somewhere. You got to say, okay, I can't make a real world test. So here, this is as close as I think I can get. And so for me, we use a lot of different test labs and collect a lot of data. We test a lot on our own. And we have our own beliefs. So, but Virginia Tech believes in softer foam too. And so as we had to raise the density, we chose to go for the DH standard over the seeking the 5 stars. Not that I'm not working on that as well. At the same time, we are saying, okay, there's specifically a few spots where we had to crank up the density, which I'm not a huge fan of, but to pass the downhill standard. So how do we modify to do both? And that's just an engineering challenge that you're always going to be facing.
Okay. So you were talking earlier about built-in compliance being preferable for safety. And then we've got this titanium subframe, which at least to pass the downhill standards, I guess, has to be fairly stiff. Where was that kind of balance found? Will that titanium chin bar still flex like an appreciable amount?
It will flex. The problem with this discussion for me is because I've heard some criticism saying, from another brand saying, well, we built in flex. And I'm like, yeah, right. you got the flex you got when you got the test. But let's talk about that test for a second. Yes, we have some video that will show this, and we'll show some flex, but it is relatively stiff. It's not real. When you clamp your helmet on your head like this so it cannot move, what's the first thing that's going to happen when you hit the ground? It's going all over the place. So the flex is to me not my main focus. My main focus is to make sure that this thing is not going to break anywhere, that that there's no weaknesses in it. That doesn't mean I have to make it overly stiff either. But in the videos that we'll have online, I was just reviewing them yesterday. It shows there's flex, and you'll have flex in it.
Cool. My, I guess, first concern when I saw it was, I've had crashes on downhill helmets in the past, and the chin bar, whether even if you've got the perfect fit on your head, the chin bar can still move that distance from, being in front of your face to touching your face. And especially, I've got quite a big chin, fill up a full face. How would you address people's concerns about having that metal there?
Okay, first of all, it ain't going to come this way. It won't. It's the strength is there. So moreover, what you're talking about is, which you might be concerned about, is, coming over from the side and touching your face. So, some of that gets held up by the cheek pads holding it there, and it can roll over and hit you. It's not going to collapse on you. It's engineered not to do that. Can it come over and roll over and hit you? Yeah, it can. Again, I watched a lot of other sports using this type of helmet, and they're kind of doing some of the same. And I felt comfortable that we are in the same position, and that rollover. Yes, this collapsing on you isn't. It's built strong enough for that not to happen.
Okay. And as collapsing, I guess, is one thing, but having the metal, touching your face, to me, I'm a little scared of that.
You're concerned of that. Yeah. Again, like I said, I did a lot of studying on other sports using this kind of thing, and felt comfortable with it. I'm pretty free to say, if you're concerned about that, hold off. This may not be for everybody. And get the feedback and talk to the people who are riding it, and observe and see. We've talked about adding some internal further pieces in, and there's already, a Crew 2.0 design underway, to alleviate some of those concerns. We feel pretty comfortable that we've got you covered, and that it's not going to be getting in your face.
I guess I've read or heard that some people are seeing it more from, this is not the helmet that's necessarily going to replace the full face that people typically know. Rather, it's a helmet that's going to be giving you increased protection over a half shell helmet, in which case having that protection there is going to be better than your face directly impacting the ground. Is that sort of more where your stance is on it?
100%. I call this a full face trail helmet. That's what I called it from the beginning. This is a full face trail helmet. Again, don't expect somebody queuing up for the downhill race, and bombing down on it. That's not where this was designed for, and not where I'd expect it to be seen. This is a trail helmet. This is very much like your half shell, just with an added protection.
So you were saying that when you were developing it, or potentially moving forward, you're looking at adding some kind of covering to that titanium. Was it decided not to go for that in the first place because of weight and breathability? Is that where the trade-off was made?
Those were absolutely brought up, for sure. People brought that up. It got away from the intention of the helmet. if I'm going to cover this thing all up, why don't I just make the same thing that we've been making for 20 years? This was meant to be something that you forget about. And I'm not kidding you. When you're riding it, you forget that it's there. It has it's not stopping air coming in. Visibility is everything that you'd hope for. Um, will we look at improvements? Of course we will. I mean, one of my designers, um, see, I'm the engineer. So, and then I have guys who are better, make things look better than I do. And he's like, yeah, let's snap on these things on the outside. And I'm like, well, then this things can fly off, and, and then it's just like I said, what you've been making for 20 years. So, for me, it was pretty easy. Our UK distributor, I was talking to him about some of these concerns that had come across the first day. And, and he's quite conservative, and he's a hell of a rider. And I said, well, should we look at this? Should we look at that? And he goes, don't do anything, at least for a couple months. Just sit back and trust what you've done. And then we'll look at it. We'll talk about it. And to me, everything's you're never done improving. You're constantly looking at it. You're constantly making it better. But if I go put a bunch of stuff on it, then it's just another helmet that's the same. And it's easy to do what everybody's already done. All I got to do is plug in, how do I make a helmet into AI, and it'll come back and tell me, oh, make it just like, the drop frame, or make it like and I'm like, okay, it's not. Then you're just a copier. So step out of your comfort zone a little bit.
Yeah, and I really do respect it, and I think it's awesome to see some out of the box thinking and some progressive design coming in. It is really cool. You launched the helmet at the Hard Rock event in the UK. Were you getting a lot of people in the helmet to try it out?
Very much so. A couple of reasons I chose Hard Rock. I've been wanting to do something in the UK for a while. Our support there has been fantastic. We're with Oxford Products, and they've been just a great partner, and wanted to spend some more time. And I'm sorry, just I kind of dig being in the UK. It's easy for me. It's a place I like to be. But yeah, I wanted to show that support to them. And we looked at Sea Otter. The problem with the issue with Sea Otter is it's so big, and guys like you've got your list. I got to go see Specialized. I got to go see Trek. I got to see, and so getting anybody to come by and talk about anything, is tough. Small helmet brand. You might go stop by Fox, because everybody has to stop by Fox. And that's what you got to do. But, I just felt that, we would have the opportunity to talk to more media people directly. The Pink Bike post was done by somebody out of the UK. I don't even think they came to the event, but, so of course, we launch it and everything goes crazy on different, and, comments of, are these guys crazy? What's going on? This is the ugliest helmet we've ever seen. And, and we're like, okay. So the very next day, people start coming to the booth. All right, let's see this helmet that you guys have. And almost to a woman, it was, oh, wow, this looks a lot better in person. Can I put it on? Of course you can. Try it on. Check it out. And so the in-person response, to my face anyway, was, oh, this is way cool. This is, once you pick it up, you feel the weight, you look at it, you put it on, and then it was like, okay, now I get it. I can't see what other people see in pictures, because, I have it, I designed it, so what you see is what you see. But it was refreshing to hear people come over and go, oh, yeah, I'll take one. Let's go. So, yeah.
Very cool. What were people raising any concerns to your face? Was there
Sure.
some
I mean,
explanations
the
required?
same, yeah, the same ones you've talked about. The other one is, what about a stick, coming in? It's too open for that. And, my response to that is look at the purpose. This is an open face helmet with more protection. I, um, last year I crashed in Wales and went through the brambles and, but not on this helmet. Because I didn't shift my brakes to the other side. I'm like, I'm fine. I ride motorcycles. I'll be fine. Oh, whoops. No, I wasn't so fine.
No, it's never that easy.
Your reaction, I'm not that smart. Yeah. Sitting having lunch by the river and people are looking at this bloodied out face. It was not just scratches, but yeah, but I was in an open face. Yeah, that's going to happen. And if that's your main concern, it's not, this helmet isn't for you. And I don't have a problem with that. Thanks for giving us a shot. Thanks for looking at it. Those are where the discussions do come in. Okay. Is there some kind of a mesh we can put over? Ironically, I saw at Arbrock, a helmet by Alpenstars I'd never seen before that was pretty cool, that actually had very open on the side, much more, covered right on the nose. And I thought, wow, maybe if we would have done that, we might not have gotten so much grief. But that wasn't, the intention of the helmet. The intention was breathability, visibility. But I'll give Alpenstars props. I thought it was a pretty cool helmet.
Yeah, cool.
I don't
I'll
know
have to check it out.
Yeah.
No, I've
They
not
weren't
seen
there.
it.
I just saw somebody who owned one. Yeah.
Right. Cool. And I guess the one other concern that I've maybe seen people have with it is not so much penetration. Like, I totally agree. If you're thinking about it like that, then you need more of a downhill helmet rather than this elevating over a trail lid. The one thing is this kind of snagging concerns. If you hit the ground, you've got this on your face, and it maybe is more likely to stick to something and cause a bit of a twist in motion. Is that a real
I
concern?
hadn't
Do you
heard
think?
that one. I hadn't heard that one. And I do look at the dynamics of crashes and the man, that would be pretty almost freak accident to me if I think about this. I mean, we're still pretty smooth. You'd have to get it to go in and grab and turn. Possible, maybe. um, I'm just not seeing it as the likely scenarios. So yeah,
I must say that wasn't immediately on my radar because it is, like you say, like quite smooth. If you run your hands around it, it would have to be something particularly awkward. But like in a normal full face helmet, you've still got the top and the bottom edges that could catch in exactly the same way. So it's,
well, even in our Invader and everybody else who's now done an open, albeit bigger plastic. I mean, the whole thing is to have vents along the sides. These are just bigger. So can it happen? Yeah. I mean, I don't know, but if your audience knows, we do a lifetime crash replacement. And the way that started was people would send me letters saying, hey, I've crashed. And, often it was thank you emails. And I would say, hey, if you send me your helmet so I can study it, I'll send you a new one. And I did for years, and I still do. I cut them open. I look at them. And so you actually with Cali, you're buying 2 for 1. I stand by that. People are saying that's crazy. People are going to be throwing their helmets on the ground and ruin them. So you have to replace them. No, it's just not like that. It's just a good vibe. I do get them back. I cut them open. I studied the squish. I studied the crush versus the cracking. I want more squishing than I want more cracking. But, so you see all different kinds of things. One day I got one of our Maya helmets back, smashed right on the top. And I'm like, I got to call this guy. Cause I'll call you if something's really weird. I'm like, dude, what happened? He goes, a tree branch broke right right on top of his head. And I'm like, oh, exactly. Yeah. So I hear some crazy stories, some horrible stories, as well. But I think it's super important. And the only way to get as many helmets back is to have a program like what we have. And like I said, it started out as a legit just engineering thing. Marketing gets hold of it, and then it becomes a whole advertising thing. And but we're not shying away from it. It's we've been doing it. I don't know when we started it, but for well over 10 years, and it's not going away.
What are the details of that? Is it free crash replacement?
You have to pay for shipping. Shipping's gone crazy in the world, everywhere. Yeah, I'm not sure if our UK distributor does it too. I'll just speak to what we do in the US because I'm more familiar with it. We do ask you to register the helmet when you buy it, so we have your information. But most of the time, when somebody calls us, do you register? No, go register. So go register your helmet. You can take it back to your shop, or you can send it to us directly. There's boxes weekly showing up with helmets that are crashed. And we turn around and send you a similar or the exact same model or something equivalent. There's times when people want to upgrade and things like that, and we'll deal with that too. But it really is not meant to be a marketing scam. It is meant to be true. It's meant to get helmets back in our hands and study them. I wouldn't support it if I wasn't getting those back and being able to do something with them. Because I mean, I was going to say it's a pain in the ass. It's not really. I mean, it's good. I mean, I think it's just okay. Ask my guy in the warehouse what he thinks, but for me, it's a great program, and I think we will continue to do it.
Yeah, wow, that's very cool. I didn't quite appreciate. I knew that you had something like that in place, but I didn't realize it was quite as good as that is. That's
yeah. Really just awesome. Give us a call. You can give us a call. You can email us. Email's fine. You can give us a call. Yeah, I'm sure the same would happen with Oxford, that they would kind of walk you through the process. I have not heard any complaints from them. I know, like, New Zealand at first was like, you don't know how cheap our customers are. I'm like, what do you mean? I'm talking about, you got some of the greatest riding in the world, right? But anyway, and in the end, they got on board and did it too. And so at first people are taken back, like, you can't do that. We're not the first to do this. And other brands do it to other degrees. Some offer 50% off, some offer, 25% off. We just happen to do it, for shipping. So
very cool. Rounding out the features on the Crew. So we've talked about the obvious thing. What else have you got going on in there?
Well, we do put in, I don't know how well you can see that, the blue stuff in there. We've been putting what we call a low density layer in our helmets. I tried it back in 2010 where I tried to put, just memory foam in, and it was a processing disaster. It just was hard to work with. But I wanted something. So EPS doesn't start crushing until you've hit 40, 50 Gs, right? Because it's got to be a certain level of hardness to take the big impacts. And so we want to have a much wider range of protection. So this blue stuff is, it's called an ERT, energy reducing technology. We're not the only people to use that. We've just kind of got on board with that, but we started with softer stuff inside like this well before everybody. We actually started using something called Armor Gel, and then eventually Rheon, which is out of the UK. And then until we finally settled on this. But the idea is it starts dissipating from zero. Instead of waiting for 50 Gs before the EPS foam starts to crush. Remember that you get knocked out at about 86 Gs, right? But we're building our helmets to withstand 250 Gs, 300 Gs. That is close to death. right? And again, according to another study, and this was from the Imperial College, was that 80% of all bicycle accidents are below 100 Gs, 106 to be exact. Yet we're all focused on the upper end. And we do care about that. We do need to take care of that, but we need to worry about a much wider range of impacts. So these start crushing immediately. They will fold over. They will help with rotational forces. People often ask why we don't use MIPS. I'm not a big fan of putting a layer between your head and what's supposed to crush, which is the foam. And in our studies, MIPS actually increased linear Gs by about 20%. Helps with, sure, they do their rotational thing quite well. And in fact, some of the newer MIPS ideas that have softer stuff, I applaud them moving more towards that. But I couldn't get behind, protecting the foam from crushing, putting a something in there between your head and the thing that's supposed to crush. So that's why I look for softer things. Softer is better all the way through. Softer EPS, the lowest EPS densities possible, those kind of things.
Cool. Yeah. And then the rest of the helmet. So the titanium only goes sort of around the back of your...
It goes all the way
back of the ears, right?
Yeah, it comes all the way around.
Does it go?
Comes up over the top of the ears, comes down, and then back through the back section. So it's all completely welded all around. Oops. Yeah. So up through here and then down around.
And then you talked about having geometric foams. Have you got different, different densities of foam up there?
We've started using a new formulation of EPS. The material I was talking about earlier that you can hit multiple impacts on. It's a material from an Italian chemical company called Alimentis, and it's a acrylic-based material with carbon nanotubes in it. In one helmet that costs $1,000 that we can hit over and over again, we put 100% in, but we've started mixing that material into standard EPS. So it's kind of it helps. It's not rubberized because you don't want too much spring back either, but it's a newer material, a newer formulation that helps with that crush. I talked about crush versus cracking. I prefer a good crush over a big crack, but crack releases energy too. So, is
that more progressive then in its energy absorption?
Not as much as like we also do in some of our helmets, we use geometric shapes, and as the cones crush, they get harder as they go down. And that's a more progressive thing. So, we make those decisions during the testing, how we're reading the testing, how the testing's coming out, how the density is, if we need to add more technologies to get to the results that we want. With this helmet, we were getting what we want with the mixture of what we call nano material. So the Alimentis nano material mixed into the EPS.
Cool. And how can you see that material and the titanium subframe tech progressing? Do you think we're going to see more of both of those in your mountain bike lineup in the future?
Yeah. You currently we put that we call it Contigo foam in everything we do now. Every new development will get that. Material science is never ending for us, and people like Alimentis they're chemists. I'm not. I'm just a user of their materials. So they're constantly looking at new formulas and so even the nano originally, I've been working with it for over 5 years and just finally came out with a full nano helmet because it was having shearing issues. Anytime you were near a vent, it would shear easier. If I took a block of it, you could never destroy it. But if I had an vent, then it would shear. So we had to solve that problem. So that took time. So behind the scenes of not just me, the guys at the other bike companies too, if they're listening and putting their ear to the ground, there's these guys working on materials constantly. and trying to improve them. And, you got to kind of decide what works for you versus the other guys. I mean, it's not, it's, it's not that hard, but it's not that easy either. Cause you don't make the material. You have to go seek that out. You have to be convinced. Then you've got to get your factory willing to do it. And, fortunately for me, the factory that I work with, I actually started their carbon fiber factory first. So, I was an employee there for 10 years. So I know the guy in the back room, and I can do that. I don't just get sent into a little conference room and say, well, what do you want? And that's a challenge for, for some brands. And that's why I think you don't see as much development in R&D as you might like to. With helmets, it's harder because you have to make molds. You have to make tools that are expensive. For me to do a motorcycle helmet or a full downhill helmet is a minimum of $250,000 and up. So if you're going to start messing around with materials, I got to go make molds to do that. And, so, I respect why it's not easy to do. But again, I come from that R&D world, and it just can't stop. It's an addiction.
Man, it's so interesting. I've got so many more questions, but so just a quick one. When you're developing a helmet from a new material like that, are you going to be using existing molds to start with to see how it goes there, and then is that the efficient way to do it?
Yeah. I mean, the helmet that I keep talking about that has multi-impact, it's a helmet that's been in our line for a long time. And in some ways, we're not even calling this the launch of this material, because I've got another new helmet that's in the SLA stage. So it's been printed. Now we got to start cutting molds, and that's the one that we're going to make a bigger deal about, and get all the testing behind it. We do sell the other one, and people are buying it. Nikolai is wearing one of those helmets that has the multiple impact helmets, which I'm very happy about, because I know he does not change his helmet often enough for as much as he crashes. Why? Because he gets them custom painted. He's like, I can't wear that black one. I got this cool, and so, you think about guys like him that are going to crash a lot. You think about motocross guys. I mean, those guys go down almost every time, every practice they're going down. Hopefully it's a walk off and not a head hit. But, yeah, there's, we're not changing our helmets as often as we should when you guys are riding like that. I mean, I don't know about you. I've probably, I've been riding for 40 years. I've probably hit my head 4 or 5 times. One time enough to be helicoptered off the mountain, at a downhill race. But in general, we know, okay, I'm going to replace my helmet. But these guys who are riding every day, BMX park guys, they scare me the most, because they're not doing big hits, but they're doing a lot of little skateboarders too. They're doing a lot of little hits. And that, frankly, those are the guys that I worry about rotational forces more than anything. Because when we talk about rotational forces or oblique impacts, mostly we're talking about buildup over and over and over again. We talk about it in American football. We even stopped in football, in my case, soccer, not allowing kids to head the ball till a certain age, and not to allow it during practice, because it's that repeat. And that's where you do want to focus on rotational forces and oblique impacts. In our daily riding, it's not as critical. So you shouldn't be forgetting about linear impacts and saying obliques the only thing we should be focusing on. It's not true. There's some level of linear and some level of oblique in every crash. So we just need a wider range of protection.
Protect against it all.
Yeah. We try. Call me when you're crashing.
Awesome, man. Sounds like it's a good time to be in the market for a helmet, and that things are only going to get better. And I guess that's thanks to guys like you pushing the boundaries, doing the R&D, and making it happen. So on behalf of the mountain bike community, thank you very much. And really awesome to hear about everything that's happening there. A few personal questions to round it out. What bike are you enjoying riding the most right now? And if there was a bike you were going to replace it with, is there anything that's on your
Yes.
radar?
Yes. I am riding a Pivot Switchblade as my main bike. I mean, probably like everybody, we have several. But that's a bike I ride 85% of the time. I have a little dirt jumper. I have, I have an e-bike that I ride only with other e-bikers. And that's an Orbea. But my main bike is that Pivot Switchblade. Still love it. It's probably about 5-6 years old now. I want one of those Athertons.
What one are we talking? We're talking the carbon and additive titanium.
Yes.
And are you going 130, 150, 170, or 200?
I'm probably at this point 150. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a killer bike.
Oh.
That's a true do everything bike. I tested that thing at Dovey. I rode downhill laps on it happily. It pedals well.
Yeah. I fell in love with that thing. So yeah, that would be my next one.
Awesome. And if you could take that Atherton A150 and be dropped at the top of any trail in the world, where are you transporting yourself to right now?
God, there's so many great trails. There's so many great trails everywhere. I've been fortunate to have some great riding in Wales recently. Whistler's always awesome. I actually like the backs, not the lift part of Whistler. Going with some locals that know the back part of Whistler. So that's probably it, but I wouldn't turn it down an opportunity to ride, pretty much anywhere. There's just great riding so many places. Yeah.
Yeah. I do feel like the exploration on mountain bikes is one of the best parts for sure. Cool. And have you got a singular wisdom that you would like to leave the audience with?
Oh, that's so easy. Just keep riding, keep exploring, don't stop having fun. I mean, look at me. I'm not young anymore, but I'm still riding stuff that is fun. And, the bikes are getting better and enjoy it. So yeah, just keep pedaling.
Keep pedaling. Well, thank you so much, Brad. Thank you for your time and for a really interesting conversation. I hope our audience is going to enjoy it as much as I have. Huge thanks also to our supporters of the Loam Wolf MTB podcast, Joe's No Flats and Feedback Sports. And thank you guys so much for listening. Make sure you head to our forum. We're going to start a discussion in there. I'm hoping we can get Brad and Max from Cali in there to answer any questions that you have. And be sure to subscribe to the channel no matter what platform you're on. Thanks for watching and listening. Catch you all in the next one.